here today to talk about holistic sprays for the garden, how to make them, what they're good for, and how to mix the recipe for you. Yeah, so why use holistic sprays in the garden? And the spray that I'm going to be using today is from the late, great Michael Phillips, who has a lot of really amazing books about holistic orcharding, and I definitely recommend, if you're interested in this, that you check out his books. They have a lot of great resources about how to care for your garden. So one uses holistic sprays because it sort of works the same way that we want to feed our gut microbiome and have really good beneficial bacteria in our gut. It's the same way as what we want to do for the garden. So basically what we're doing is we're building up all the beneficial bacteria and insects so that then when there is some stress or something comes in, then the plants in the garden have a way to respond to it. So what we're doing is we're proactively building up the healthy nutrients in the garden so that then they're better able to manage stress when it comes along. So as far as that goes, the ingredients that we use, we've got, one of the main ingredients for this is neem oil. So neem oil is an insecticide. It disrupts the life cycle of harmful insects, but it can also interrupt beneficials like bees. So it's really important to use this early in the morning. Be mindful of if it's a high pollination time, and be aware if there's bees around. So you don't want to use this necessarily when there's a lot of active bee activity. Along with that is karanja, which is also really good for as an insecticide. It can be used in balance with neem oil so that you, at times when it's a really high pollination time, you can lean more on the karanja than the neem oil. We've also got kelp here, which is really good for helping plants deal with stress, building up their nutrients. We've got fish hydrolysate, which similarly, it has a lot of nutrients in it that will feed the plants and the beneficial microbes. We have, you can either use like a Dr. Bronner's or a dish soap. That just helps the neem oil and the karanja oil emulsify. We've got blackstrap molasses, which is used for feeding the beneficial microbes. Just like if you're making kombucha or something, and you add sugar to that to feed the microbes, we're doing the same here with blackstrap molasses. And then this is our EM1, which is our beneficial microbe mother culture that we use exactly like I was saying. We're just building up lots and lots of beneficial microbes, so we're going to add that in. And that's our basic recipe. So what I'll do is I'll go through the actual quantities and how to mix it together, and then show you any additional nutrients you can add to it. So the first ingredient that we're going to add is neem oil. And as I said before, it's really good to do this early in the morning. It can stress the plants to spray them when it's full sun. So try to get out pretty early in the morning. Again, also too, at times when there aren't a lot of bees out, so you can protect them. The first thing is the neem, and we add 1/3 of a cup of that. And we'll just use a 5-gallon bucket. It's easier to use a bucket to mix in, and then we'll transfer it over to the spray tank. And then to that, we're gonna add some soap. And like I said, you can use dish soap or Dr. Bronner's. If you have Dr. Bronner's on hand, it just takes a little bit more than the dish soap. And I add about a tablespoon of this in here, so I'm not gonna measure this. And what the dish soap does is it emulsifies the neem oil, so it actually will mix into the solution and it will spray better. Otherwise, you're just gonna end up with an oil slick on top of your spray. And right now they're separated, so what we're gonna do is add a quart of water. And it helps if it's warm water, so what you could do is bring, just some warm water from home in a thermos to use here. We'll just add the water in and then give it a good mix. So you'll see that once they're all mixed together, you don't have this thick oil slick like you did of the neem before, and it actually mixes in well. And you shouldn't really see any beads of oil in here. It should be mixed up well. And you want to get that well mixed before you add the rest of the ingredients. Next in the lineup is the blackstrap molasses, so we'll add 1/4 of a cup of that in. And this is to really feed the microorganisms that we're growing. And it's optional. If you don't have it on hand, then you can skip it, because there is also molasses in the mother culture, so there's already some sugars in there. So if you don't have extra, it's okay. And next, we're gonna add liquid kelp. That really helps with the stress response of plants. And we're gonna add 1/4 cup of that as well. And these will all mix really well. None of these are oily, so they'll mix really well into the solution. And then next we're going to add 1 1/4 cups of the fish hydrolysate, I don't know how you say it. Just give it a good shake before you use it. And this is what makes the spray really smell like the ocean. I have come to love it, but I think some people not so much. Because it really is just ground up fish. So it smells like ground up fish. But you can imagine all the nutrients that are good for us in fish are also really good for the plants. So they get a lot of nutritional benefit from that. So we're going to add 1 1/4 cups of the fish in here. And then the same amount of the effective microbes, 1 1/4 cups of the effective microbes. And to make this is a really easy thing to make. So if you've ever done any fermenting, it's the same process. You'll add 1 part of the concentrated mother culture, 1 part of the blackstrap molasses, and then 18 parts of water. And you just close it up with a way for it to vent and let it sit for 3 or 4 days probably until it starts to ferment. And then you can let it sit a little bit longer, like maybe a week longer. And it'll smell a little alcohol-y, a little fermented, and that's how you know that it's in a good place to use on the plants. And this will keep for about a month to 2 months, so you can mix up a batch if you know you're going to be doing a lot of sprays and use it over that time period. So we're going to add 1 1/4 cups of that. And those are the primary ingredients for the spray. The fun thing is you can start to add more beneficials to it as much as you want. They're really only going to help and not hurt. So the other beneficials that we have that we can add to the spray, we have a thistle sugar, a comfrey sugar, and some aloe. So aloe is really good for feeding the microorganisms as well as these providing micronutrients for the beneficials. And it's really fun to make beneficial mixtures. I add, a lot of times what I'll do is when garlic scapes are available, I'll cut off the scapes, I'll fill a 5-gallon bucket with them and cover them with water, and then just loosely put a lid on top and let it sit for like 3 or 4 days, and it'll start to ferment. You'll be able to tell it'll start to bubble and get active. And then at that point, when you can really start to see that there's a lot of activity, you can drain off the liquid, add the scapes to your compost pile, and then that liquid is really great to add to your spray. It's going to really help the beneficials and also keep the harmful insects and bacteria at bay. So we're just going to add a little bit. You don't need a lot of any of these, so we're going to add just probably like a tablespoon of aloe, a tablespoon of the comfrey sugar, and you can tell too, this has got a really great fermented smell to it. We'll also add another tablespoon of the thistle sugar. Again, you can tell there's a lot of good stuff in there. And you might think like, oh, it's weird. We have so much thistle in this garden. Why are we adding thistle sugar to this? But a lot of times the plants that are really available are the ones that are offering nutrients to the garden. So you can really start to use them in ways that you're distributing those beneficials throughout the garden. So I'm just going to give this a stir, get everything mixed in there. And then what we're going to do is add enough water so that it'll be filled up to 4 gallons. This is a 4-gallon sprayer. So I'll just top this off with water, and then I'm going to transfer this into the sprayer and show you how to spray.
Good.
So once you've got your sprayer on, everything's mixed up, I'll just show you really quickly how to use the sprayer. So this is how you have this handle here to pump it. That's what creates the pressure to actually spray. And there's a couple features on this that you might find you want to adjust when you're using it. So one is if you're doing a lot of spraying over a section that you don't want to be holding the handle down. One is you can push this down and then clip this in place and it'll do a continuous spray. And then the other two is sometimes if you're doing a tree, something tall, it's a little hard for this to reach all the way up. So you can adjust this so that it's got a longer range. but I find most of the time a fine mist works best for the plants that we're spraying. And as you're spraying, it helps to do a little kind of shimmy to keep everything mixed up well in the tank. So you'll kind of get into it. You can do your little spraying dance. And when you spray, it's good to start from the top because there's going to be dripping. So it's good if that dripping goes down into the lower branches rather than starting at the bottom and losing that and doing extra spray. And you want to spray to the point that it's just starting to run off, like if you had a nice rain and there's just a little bit of drip coming off the leaves, and then you're good. So I'll just start on the top and pump occasionally as I go. And also it's really good too to spray up under the leaves. You want to get the underside of the leaves. So really, so you're coating them so they're kind of getting this wonderful bath of nutrients as you go. And something like this that's pretty thick, you know, you can kind of just stick the nozzle right in there to get to the inner parts of the plant. And then you can walk around, get the other side. You really, I tend to work, I sort of envision the plants as being sort of a block, and I'll do all four sides. So I'll do the one side, I'll walk around to the other, I'll do the third side. And that way it really gets me thinking about all the parts of the plant to make sure that I don't miss anything. And then I'll get the fourth side. And then I'm just gonna finish the row off and you can see. And then this amount, this 4 gallons, you won't be able to do the whole garden. So it's really good if you can target and then document which ones you're doing. So certainly plants that are seeming more stressed or have a lot of insect damage or insect pressure, that's a good place to start. And then you can kind of keep it in the rotation that then you move on to other plants. So I'm done spraying, and now I want to show you the next most important part, which is cleaning out the sprayer when you're done. So I'll show you all the bits and pieces that are part of cleaning it out. So the most important part about cleaning it out is to make sure that this pressure chamber here is completely empty of the spray solution. So the first thing I do is make sure that the canister's empty, and then I'll run the hose and the spray just to empty that chamber out completely so that there's no more of the spray in there. This is a good time too to use this feature so you can just keep the spray wand going, and you can see it's just about empty now. There's barely any spray left in there. So I'll stop this, and then the next thing I'll do is add some of our soap that we have. I'd give it a good few squirts and some clean water. And you don't have to fill this up really full, but maybe a third of the way full, quarter, something like that. I'm gonna put the lid on, give it a shake, and then I'll pump the sprayer again so that now I can get the soapy water going through here. So I just did the same thing with the soapy water as I did with the spray. I'm just letting it run all the way through because it's really easy, since it's an oily spray, for it to stick in here. So you just want to make sure you're running soapy water through there. And then next, what I'm going to do is give it a rinse. And the last step I'll show you is I'm just going to put some clean water and some vinegar and run it through, and then at that point we'll leave it. So I've rinsed out the soap, and now I'm just going to put a splash of vinegar, you know, maybe a 1/4 part vinegar to water. Add some water in here. Cap it up. And this is I didn't show this the first time, but this is a screen filter. If you had, for example, like if you were adding like a garlic scape mix to that or something, it might have bits of plant material in it. You can put this in and then pour through that so you don't get any plant material clogging the pump. And I'm just going to close this up, give it a good shake, and do the same thing before. Run the pump and let that vinegar water run through. So I'm going to prime the pump, and then same as before, just let this run through. And now what we'll be doing, we won't need to rinse this a final time. We'll just let the vinegar water sit in here, and that'll keep it in good shape until next time we spray. And the last thing is just putting the sprayer back up in here so it hangs on the nail on the wall. And it's best if you can leave the lid loosely on and hang it upside down. That way all the water will drain out. And it's really important to hang it because there's a lot of mice in here. So if we can keep it on the wall and keep this up and protected, then the mice won't be able to chew on this hose. So that's really important. And the last thing I'll say is I wasn't wearing protective clothing. You saw when I was spraying, I wasn't wearing protective clothing. That's because all the materials that we're using for this, all the ingredients, are okay for human contact. I will say though that the spray has a pretty strong odor, and because a lot of the spray materials are oily, it tends to stick to your clothes, so I would definitely recommend wearing older clothes that you don't care too much about, because you will have the spray lingering on them for a while. And that's it. And I encourage you, if you're interested in this and want to learn more, definitely check out Michael Phillips' books about holistic orchard care. They're really amazing, and they offer a lot of great insight in how to really create a thriving, healthy environment in your garden. Thanks.